Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 3rd, 2014 regular meeting. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Trustee here.
Here.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Hein.
Here.
President Argyris.
Here. I entertain a motion to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of February 3rd, 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee here, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
President Argyris.
Yes, thank you. Changes to the agenda?
None this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Mr. Stein. Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points and should state their name and address into the record. Mr. Stylen.
Thank you, Mr. President and trustees. Terry Stylen, 473 Briarwood Drive, Wheeling. I'd just like to remind the village board that due to the interaction of the mixed-use district general requirements and the planned unit development ordinances, that once the village board has viewed the concept plans as part of the concept review process that you're doing tonight, that the masonry facade requirements, and I quote, shall be solely determined during the concept review, end of quote, even though there is no formal village board approval associated with the concept review and the requirements shall be set. In short, the village board's concept review meeting, no facade or masonry changes can be made by the Plan Commission. While this doesn't affect tonight's meeting, I believe that the Plan Commission should be involved in this determination process, and if you agree, should be modified as soon as possible before the next major PUD comes in. My personal recommendation would just be to make the village board tonight's meeting, a non-voting workshop discussion, which I think it is, and then make the Plan Commission's first meeting on the topic, the concept review, as is kind of defined in the ordinances. So I think many years ago, the village board said they wanted to be the first entity involved in a review process, and we kind of cut and pasted stuff out of this section over to that section, and one of the unintended consequences was that the Plan Commission got, I think, left out in part of the process. So thank you, and I hope we can take some action on it in the near-term future. Thank you.
That's all, Mr.
That's all.
President.
Thank you. 13A, new business.
New business, unlisted items for discussion and possible action. 13A, ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Wheeling Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Section 4.32.085, Arturo's Mexican Grill.
Thank you. Manager Spondelos.
Thank you. As approved at the last Liquor Control Commission, the item before you would increase the amount of liquor licenses available by one, specifically for Arturo's Mexican Grill.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Lang.
Second.
Second by Trustee Vogel. Roll call.
Trustee here.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
President Argyris.
Yes, thank you. 13B, there's two ordinances.
Regarding the plan of operation and governance for electric aggregation, I'm going to read them both.
Sure.
Number one is ordinance amending Section 4.95.04 of the Wheeling Municipal Code regarding an electricity aggregation program. Item B2, ordinance approving an amendment to the Village of Wheeling's electric aggregation plan of operation and governance.
Thank you. Manager Spondelis, explanation.
Thank you. These two items are actually fairly simple despite their length and perhaps confusing language. 2 years ago, when the board and really the residents of Wheeling approved the use of electric aggregation and approved our participation in a consortium for electric aggregation, we amended our code for a plan of operations and governance, POG, which is the second part of the ordinance this evening. The first part was amending our code for said POG. In that language, it identified a consultant that the village or the consortium would use in order to solicit bids for bulk purchase of electricity for the consortium to use. That would be Integris. That's our current electric provider. Now that the term of that contract is up, we wanted to explore other options, which means using a different consultant. All of this language is simply to allow us to use a different consultant in order to solicit electric costs for the continuing process of electric aggregation. So that's what's before you. First, we have to amend the code and then approve a new plan of operations and governance, which is a little broader and allows basically me and the consortium to use a different consultant. That's what's before you. As an update to electric aggregation, things are changing. To date, since the Village of Wheeling began electric aggregation, the residents and businesses of our community have saved $2.3 million since we started this process. The 7 communities in total saved a total of $21 million. It's a substantial amount of money. And as we expected, when we knew things were changing through the ICC, there's a number of factors. You're not just paying for electricity, you're paying about 6 or 7 other tariffs and costs that you see listed on your ComEd bill. Well, through no action of either electric suppliers or our doing, those costs are going up, and the ICC approved those increases several years ago, and they give you a game plan of when those are going to go into effect. They begin to rise this year. What that means is that the margin between what we were able to save through aggregating electricity versus the cost of buying power through ComEd is much more narrow. So now we are actually bidding electricity costs out. We're going to open bids tomorrow, and I should, by the end of the day, if not midday Wednesday, be able to announce whether or not we were able to find a favorable contract moving forward to aggregate for another 1 or 3 years. Obviously, that decision will be based on what these numbers come back as versus what we know ComEd's increases are going to be. ComEd is changing the way they're billing. They're even changing the times that they buy power. Normally it was once a year. Now they're going to go out to the market twice a year. What that means is they're taking advantage of peak rates, which is not favorable for the customer, because instead of averaging your bill on a true average of your use, it's now going to be an indicator of your peak use. So say July 5th at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's going to be the new measurement of your average power use. Seems a little unfair to me, seems a little unfair to everyone I talk to, but nevertheless the ICC approved this new scheme by which ComEd can charge. So with that in mind, we're being very aggressive in looking at new opportunities for continuing electric aggregation and hope and expect that we will be able to do so. I'm saying all this just to indicate that savings will have gone from approximately 27%, which is where we got that 2.3 million, to probably somewhere around 3 to 5%. Moving forward. A savings is still a savings, but it's going to be substantially different than what it was. I anticipate when people see their bills go up, we're probably going to take some heat for that because people are going to think that we didn't do a good job. It's not us, it's through the state, through the ICC. These are all tariff costs and the new funding mechanism through ComEd. But that's the update on electric aggregation, and I will be able to fill the board in as I sign a contract later this week.
Thank you. Trustee Brady?
Thank you. John, do we look at these proposals as, in fact, are they any of them eligible for credits for renewable energy? I noticed that the government does give credits for that.
Well, currently, we're buying all renewable energy right now. We're the savings, and that's a great question. The $2.3 million includes 100% renewable power. That's what we agreed to purchase previously. The answer to your question is yes, we're looking at it, but now those credits are so expensive that we're going to have to go back to brown power. Otherwise, there would be no financial advantage to electric aggregation, and our cost would be more than ComEd if we were to continue with green power.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion for 13B1.
Motion approved.
Motion by trustee Brady,
Second.
second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. Entertain a motion for 13B2.
So move.
Motion
Second.
by trustee Hein, second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. 13C.
Resolution declaring a surplus in the South Milwaukee Avenue, Manchester Drive Tax Increment Financing District Fund and authorizing the distribution of such to the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Thank you. Before I go to Director Montague, I just want to make an announcement. A couple of weeks ago, we had the task of asking staff to see if there was any surpluses in any of our existing TIFs that we could declare as a surplus and distribute to the following taxing bodies. And I'm happy to say that we did find $2.5 million that we were able to do. Not that we had to do it, but we were able to do, because it is the right thing to do, out of the South TIF. And as of the approval tonight, District 21 will receive $1.1 million. The High School 214 District will receive $562,000. The Village of Wheeling will receive $275,000. Wheeling Park District, approximately $103,000. Cook County, $128,000. Indian Trails Library, $112,000. Water Reclamation District, $89,000. Harper College, $90,000. Cook County Forest Preserve District, $15,000. Township of Wheeling, $12,500. Road and Bridge, Wheeling, $3,800. And Wheeling General Assistance, almost $2,200. And the Northwest Mosquito Abatement will receive approximately $2,700 for a total of $2.5 million that will be distributed immediately. So with that, I'll refer that to you, Mr. Montague.
Thank you very much. I think you covered most of it. The resolution before the board would declare a surplus and allow us to distribute those funds to the Cook County Treasurer, which would in turn distribute them to those taxing districts. In addition to that, as President Argyris mentioned, the village would receive approximately $275,000. Staff has included a recommendation that those funds be contributed to the police and fire pension funds to help the village pay down its unfunded liability to those funds. We recommended that because these are funds that were not anticipated when the budget was put together. They're one-time only revenue, and we felt that was an appropriate use of that money. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Questions? Just real quick, you're setting a precedent by taking the surplus of dollars that we're getting and contributing into the fire and police pension fund. Is that what you're saying? I'd like to see a policy come before us probably next budget time. And if we're fortunate enough to have surpluses and we maintain a hefty fund balance, that we have a policy in place that surpluses that we can put back into these funds, because it does help us with our bond rating and help us in a lot of ways to try to get close to 100% funding as possible. So if we're able to do that, I'd like to see staff be a little creative here. And if we're fortunate enough to have surpluses, allocate those dollars to those pension funds so we can get ourselves caught up and not in a trick bag like we had in the last few years.
I think it's a good idea, and we can certainly put that policy together.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang, second by trustee Heer. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. Thanks, staff. 1310. 13D, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. Resolution accepting a contract with Jetco Limited for the rehabilitation and recoding of Central Receiving Station.
Thank you. Director Janik.
Thank you. Staff is requesting that the board consider a contract with Jetco for the painting and rehabilitation of the central receiving station. One or two meetings ago, the board might remember approving a contract with Dixon Engineering to do the inspection as well as the engineering work for this. We received 11 bids for this work. Jetco was the lowest responsible bidder, and they were also approved by Dixon.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady,
Second?
second by trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13E.
Discussion regarding concept review for planned unit development, Autumn Oaks Assisted Living Facility, 60 to 156 West Dundee Road, vacant parcels east of 200 West Dundee Road.
Thank you. Attorney Ferrolo.
Sure. Before we get into the presentation, I just wanted to comment briefly on Commissioner Stylin's presentation. Commissioner Stylin identified what I view as somewhat conflicting provisions of our code. Terry identified section 19.05.010, which relates to mixed-use districts and their general requirements, and he's right. He says that it states that minimum masonry requirements on all other developments in the mixed-use districts, including planned unit developments, shall be determined during concept review. But what that butts up against is a provision of our code that's been in place for some time, for several years, in fact. And what that is, it's in section 19.09. It refers to planned unit developments. And under that section, there's always been a requirement that a PUD come to the board for concept review and workshop discussion. And what that section states is that there is no formal approval associated with a concept review. Our practice has been to review a PUD conceptually. Is it something that the board could see developed in the community? With the direction, almost always, you're going to be sent down to the Plan Commission. They're going to review, make their typical recommendations, and will come back to us for final decision. There's a reason for that kind of review with a PUD. PUD is really a massive deviation from the zoning code, essentially. It's an isolated area where there are many zoning variations that ultimately may be allowed. Concept review never really got into masonry discussions. And if you look at 19.09, it lists the level of detail that an applicant is to come to this review with. And the level of detail doesn't even refer to masonry requirements. So we have a bit of a conflict. What I would suggest is we hear the presentation, the board makes, usually through a consensus, determines whether or not it likes the concept, refers it to the Plan Commission if that's the direction the board's going to go, with the direction that the Plan Commission is to review the PUD, including masonry requirements. And I think by doing that, we'll cover the board. We won't miss any steps here. We'll treat this as we always have, and in the future, clean up the code. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, as long as it's clear that when the developer comes before us, what he's presenting tonight in the conceptual plan is not written in stone, and that they are subject to many changes, probably, with the Plan Commission.
It could be. Plan
Right.
Commission may recommend approval, may recommend denial, may recommend multiple changes. Ultimately, that recommendation will work its way back up to this board for a final decision.
Okay.
But when you do take a consensus relative to this, I would include a referral down to the PC for review, including masonry requirements.
Gotcha. Okay. Are the petitioners here? Why don't you come on up, fellas, and introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Matt Crumick. I'm the petitioner on on behalf of the LaSalle Group. I want to thank President Argyris and the trustees for their time this evening. Do you need our address for the record?
Please.
1900 East Gulf Road, Suite 1120, Schaumburg, Illinois.
Thank you.
We're here to present our PUD concept, and I do understand it is a concept review, and that's something that we take not lightly. We like to do this with the municipalities that we enter into because we want to create a long-term relationship, and we can only do that by having dialogue and discussion on what we would like to propose and what you would like to see within your own community. So We will certainly work with you as time goes through. I also want to thank members of staff, John Tack, Andrew Jennings, and John Malanofi for helping us through the last few months since we first came into this project. I'll tell you briefly about the LaSalle Group, what our proposal is, and then I do have my consultants here this evening that can answer some specific questions in terms of review and engineering and architecture. But again, our firm is the LaSalle Group, and we are developers of senior housing and assisted living throughout the U.S. We were originally from Chicago. We've been around for about 30 years. In the last 15 years, we've focused specifically on assisted living. And we've done that in Houston, Dallas, Chicago, and now Washington, D.C., as well as Atlanta. I'm in charge of our Chicago region, and here we have a product called Autumn Leaves, which is a growing product that we've had here in the Chicagoland area for about 7 years. It treats those that specifically have dementia and various forms of Alzheimer's. And that's a product that we're very proud of, and you've seen throughout the Chicagoland area. We're looking at our 10th community here for 2014. This project here tonight, the Autumn Oaks, is an initiative for us new to this region. We have a property in Dallas which is very similar to this. It does have an independent living section that we are not introducing here in Wheeling, but I was tasked with finding a community where we could bring this new concept. It would be our very strategic memory care therapies on the first floor and additional levels of assisted living on the floors above. Looking throughout the northwest suburbs, the North Shore, I became attracted to Wheeling for many reasons. I've been familiar with this. My family used to have a business in this town, and I love what you guys are doing in this kind of downtown area. And while we're not a perfect fit for what you're going to do at the town center, we're a great complement to have that kind of off to the side and part of the gateway for this new development, we feel. We've met with staff in the village, and we've talked about an aesthetic that you're looking for. We understand it's kind of a prairie style, so we've introduced that concept in our architectural plans. We also have worked with the synagogue, which is one of the cellars. These are two cellars. One is the Olshansky's, and one is the synagogue, Shir Hadash, and they're here this evening. And we worked with them to create a community garden. So we were tasked to meet with them because they had approached the village in the past about doing a community garden. I understand the village had a lot on their plate, and we thought it was a great amenity for our residents if this project goes through. So we've been working quite a bit with the leadership at the synagogue to put together a community feature in the back that can be open to all people within the community, and it would allow our residents to enjoy some common space along the creek behind. So what our proposal entails is a very unique, high-end assisted living product with masonry and stone. It's going to be there. We can talk about that as time goes on. But it's also going to have a unique open space in the back. We've committed to doing landscape improvements along the streetscape. We've committed to potentially tying in the bike path as it exists along that, I believe it's Wolf Creek. And we've committed to working with the synagogue and providing walking gardens and amenities for their religious services. So we view this as kind of a community partnership. And that's something we've always done with Autumn Leaves, but this is a real unique project because we have a true partner in the users of that open space. This is a private pay product, so this is we see it kind of in that $6,000 to $9,000 range a month, depending on different services. We would be a taxing parcel. We're actually taking some parcels that are off the tax rolls right now and putting them back on the tax rolls, so that's good for the TIF. And I will say, and I think you've seen that in the commentary, we are going to request some participation from the TIF. If you look at the but-for concept within the TIF, there are some requirements here for stormwater retention and storage that we can't meet financially. And we would need participation from MWRD in the village in conjunction with Heritage Lake, as well as some potential reimbursement from the TIF over time. We would be potentially investing $20 million in hard costs, $25 million in enterprise costs, up to stabilization. So it's an investment that we'd like to make in the community. We're open to input. We really want it to be a partisan or a partnership for all those that are involved. And there's some questions that we've had in terms of, are we is there going to be a burden on services? Obviously, the schools are not going to be involved. We've got our mainly our population is in the 80s. We do have, which is one interesting feature that you won't find in the competition, we exceed the state rules for nursing care. So we always have an RN on staff. And what that allows us to do is temper the amount of emergency calls we have to local 911. Some people do not provide that nurse 24 hours a day. We do. So we can analyze the situation. Does it require 911? Is it a simple patient transport? So we find historically throughout the Chicago region, we average in our autumn leaves communities 4 to 5 calls per month. If you look at other communities, that's nil. This, based on the size, may double, so you may be looking at 8 to 10 calls per month. But those are certainly calls that can be recaptured through Medicare. We do not handle that directly because we're private pay, but I think the point of it is that we are not a huge burden on emergency services either. We are assisted living, we're not skilled nursing. We've looked at parking. We're trying to provide some additional parking that our consultants will get into that's beyond what the requirements are. I know that there's some history in town of maybe some competitors that don't have enough parking. We want to make sure there's more than enough parking. So, you know, that's really about it, about the LaSalle Group and the project. I'd like to introduce the architect and the engineer real quick to kind of do a run-through on that project, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay? Jim?
Good evening. My name is Jim Moyer. I'm with SAS Architects and Planners. My address is 630 Dundee Road in Northbrook, Illinois. And if I could start with the site plan, is that something I have control of? So SAS Architects and Planners is the majority of our work is senior living, and we've been lucky enough to work with LaSalle Partners for the last 7 years, and we've done all the autumn leaves in the Midwest. I think we have 6 or 7 built already and 3 under construction. So we've been working with the LaSalle Partners on this new product, which is the combination of a memory support and an assisted living. This property came up and we were asked to take a look at how we could fit a building on this site. So the site is located on Dundee, right across the street. It's roughly a little over 5 acres. The building itself would be about 82,000 square feet. It's 3 stories. Let's see if I have a pointer here. I could just point to some areas here. I just happen to have a pointer, yeah. So it's a 3-story building. The first floor would have, towards the back, would have 2 neighborhoods of 16 or 32 memory support units. The area in the front is more of an activity area for the assisted living, which would have the dining room and the living room, and then access to the elevators that would take you up to the 2nd and 3rd floor, which would have 60 assisted living apartments, 30 on a floor. They range 2 bedrooms to studios. So we have an area that you pull in off the road, and then you have an entrance in the center, and we would be roughly about 2 feet to 30 inches above that floodway line, and that floodway line is represented by that red dash line over there. We tried to create all the entrances and exits to the building off the front of the building in case there was ever a time when, say, the north portion of the property did become flooded, so all the access to the building would be from the Dundee Road site. We're about 75 feet from the property line and about 50 feet from the west to the synagogue. If I could get the next floor plan. It's the elevation. So this is the floor plan, just roughly. So this is the assisted living with the elevators up to the front, and then 2 neighborhoods of 16. If I could get the 2nd and 3rd floor plan, the next floor plan.
No, that's all we have.
Might not have it.
Don't have it.
Okay. So maybe if I could just get back to the site plan and we could address parking really quickly.
We have the 2nd floor on our,
We have it on ours.
Oh, yeah, but okay. Well, it's just the assisted living apartment, so. But just going back to the site plan again, so this front parking here is envisioned would be all the visitor parking with a drop-off area, some delivery areas, and then there's a secondary drop-off for mostly the memory support. This back portion here would be all the parking that would be required for the employees. And then we have additional overflow parking, and it's also going to be shared with the synagogue to the west. It's hard to read over here, but we have an additional land bank parking that we've identified that if it became an issue, we could build that parking. So if I could go to the elevations. And what we envisioned on the elevations is we were working with a prairie school or prairie-style architecture, so we really tried to emphasize the horizontal lines of the prairie, so we have a low pitch tip roof, will be asphalt shingles, a lot of horizontal bands that would be limestone masonry. The majority of the building would be face brick. We have accents of stone, which would be primarily on the base, and then just accents of maybe a stucco material that just would break up the mass of the building a little bit. We were very careful to create or narrow the mass of the building. If you notice at the ends of the building, we stepped the building in so it doesn't look so wide at the ends. And the one-story element in front really helps break up the mass of that three-story building behind. Another nice feature, too, is the building's not parallel with the road, but it's at an angle to the road, so I think that softens up the building as well. We've also were careful to bring out individual bays that help articulate and give some interest to the facade. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Erase the word stucco. I'll tell you right now.
Erase that.
Come up with an alternative.
We were looking at cement panels as well.
Okay, that's fine. Let me start with Trustee Kruger.
Hi, Jim.
Hello.
And Matt. My questions would be, provided that this project and idea is received favorably by the board today, what's your timetable? Like, how quickly are you prepared to move forward with the process?
Well, we would move forward with an application. Obviously, right now, we've got concept plans complete. We don't have full plans ready for a submittal. That's why we're here today. That would probably take perhaps 6 weeks to put together. We would continue to work with staff as much as we have over the last 3 months. There's some approvals here that are going to take some time, quite frankly. There's some Illinois IPA stuff. There's some engineering stuff we need to work through. Some of the calculations that Spaceco and Chris Burke had been working on for the buildings need to be revised. I'd love to say that we could get this thing closed as an acquisition within 6 to 9 months.
Great, thanks. My next question. I understand that a zoning use change for this type of use would be necessary, and this is probably more a question for staff. So if you'll indulge me, Mark, I'm wondering can you talk a little bit to the zoning use change that would be needed?
Well, it's going to be a PUD, so relative to the use change, it'll be, the approval will be involved with the PUD. PUD can have more than one use in it. This won't, but I'm not sure exactly what the question is.
What's the current zone over there?
I believe it's
Is it MXT?
MXT, possibly, MXO. It's a mixed-use designation.
Okay, and then I also understand that this development would be requesting off-site. You mentioned that, compensatory storage. Where off-site are we talking about?
The only off-site that we would have available, and we don't have it available yet, but we have storage in the Heritage Park on property. We have a substantial amount of both compensatory storage and detention. As far as I know, right now, the petitioner would be asking for compensatory storage in the amount of approximately 1 acre foot. I'm sure that might change higher or lower, most likely higher as they go through their engineering, but that's my understanding.
So there would be some negotiations then with whom to make sure that that is available to us to give?
Well, once Heritage Park is completed, the storage is available to us. The part of our negotiation with MWRD a number of years ago was that we would be credited with a certain amount of storage. What the petitioners need to do is go through the Planning Commission process, and as they're going through the Planning Commission process, start figuring out exactly what sort of TIF assistance they're looking for. They mentioned compensatory storage. They also mentioned possibly some other TIF necessity. Now, we're not exactly sure what that's going to be. They need to write that down, and then they need to bring that to the board and get an approval for that.
Great, thank you. That's all I had.
Okay.
Trustee Brady?
Thank you. I understand that the residents will not have cars.
That's
what I read.
That's absolutely correct.
Good. And that's, you brought up the point about parking. I don't know how many employees you're going to have or what the future is going to hold for this site or project. I wish you all the success, but, I want to make sure that what we have here now, take away the land bank, that we will have enough parking. And this is a new concept for us, this assisted living, although it's been around. I don't know, we're going to probably have to do our own research on it and take in some your expertise and what parking you really need. I think it's important because there is no other place. I mean, if that lot gets filled up, you can't park on Dundee Road.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So it's important. Secondly, aesthetics is one of my big things. And this is a beautiful building, nice looking building. You can probably put some little fretwork or something on there to just kind of dress it up a little bit. I think it's going to be an attractive building, and I'd like to see the landscape in the front. The back is beautiful for the residents.
Yeah.
But, you look at the setting here, you're across the street from the church, the village hall, and whatever other projects we're going to be, this is all going to be brand new. And to be honest with you, I'd love to see this thing really shine as a marker. It's a different concept that I think any of us really envisioned for that piece of property. It's been for sale for a long time, and there's been many different types of businesses want to come in. None really seem to fit. The ones that did fit, we didn't want. Basically, one of the problems is the traffic on Dundee Road.
Yeah.
Your business will be a very calming effect. You're not going to be generating a lot of traffic, and I think it's a great place for it. So I'd like to see it get this done and do it right, and hopefully we'll say welcome to Wheeling one of these days.
Thank you very much. And I don't think we left off the landscaping on the front. We just spent so much time trying to come up with a concept for the back. But I did make a commitment to you, Village President, that we were going to make it a streetscape that everyone would be proud of. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Trustee Hare?
Thank you. The questions that I had were asked and answered already, but I look forward to hearing the questions that come from the Planning Commission in regards to this project, but I think it's worth exploring. I really do. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hein?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions relative to the project itself. I noticed on your site plan that you're showing a very large tent that's going to be located in the common area over by the synagogue. Is that going to be a permanent structure, or is that going to just be used for events?
What we've called out there in working with the synagogue is they would like to have an area where they could congregate for special events. And what we would be doing is we would be providing a pad grass space for a temporary tent that they would either buy or rent. And so we've called out that area as a kind of a dedicated plot for that placement of that tent, but it would not be a permanent structure.
Okay. The next question I have is relative to the use of the property itself, and because we're using TIF monies, you're asking for TIF monies and everything, which are provided by the residents of this community. Are there going to be any preferential treatment to the residents of Wheeling as far as being able to live here?
Yeah, we're asked that question quite a bit. While the assisted living type product doesn't really fall under the Fair Housing Act, we do have to be cognizant of who we're allowing to be our residents. That being said, we're here because there's a strong demographic for the areas within, an 8-minute drive or perhaps a 5-mile radius. So we would hope that the bulk of our residents would be those from Wheeling. I will say this, we do a lot of community outreach, and we bring a lot of the community into our building, and we try our best to do that. And the idea is to become part of the community. And with that, we want to have residents from Wheeling. Without that, we're going to fail. So I would say that we would do our best, but legally, I don't know how much we can just, we're only taking Wheeling residents right now, sorry, but we would make an effort.
I have one more question relative to the compensatory storage. I'm sure the calculations were done when that project over in the Park District was completed, and we've been working on off-site compensatory storage for a long time. This is not going to jeopardize any type of construction that we're going to be going on to the train station and all that kind of stuff, is it? No, as a matter of fact, the property to the west of us, directly to the west of us that the village owns, there is no floodplain on that property, so that property would not require any compensatory storage. The storage on the in the Heritage Park that we will have at some point. Generally speaking, it's to be used for the north side of Dundee Road. That would be from Kmart all the way east to this property. Generally speaking, that's the area that has the most floodplain that's hydraulically connected to the park. So in general, that's where at least staff's expectation, as well as our discussions with MWRD, that's where most of that would take place. There's floodplain on the north side of Dundee. Development on that side is going to take grading. It's going to take fill, just like this one's going to require it. And that's where we foresaw most of that storage being used.
Thank you.
I would like to add, if you don't mind, that we did a calculation just to double check that we weren't overstepping our bounds, and we're trying to request what could be considered our proportionate share or less for that area. So looking at the land area that could potentially use Heritage Park, we're at or under that.
Can I add to that?
Thank you.
I'd just like to piggyback on that answer as well. Trustee Hine, and as you said, there's really only a certain amount available through Heritage Park, and although it is for everything on the north side, the board should just be aware that, not specific to this project, but every project as it comes before you, eventually we're going to run out, which will require that last developer to have to do underground storage or something much more expensive. So that's just something to keep in mind as these projects come before you, that we really can't prioritize projects because we don't know the timing. We don't have all the cards on the table. But it is something to consider that at some point we're going to run out, and that will force development in the future to have a much more expensive ask because they're going to have to do underground storage.
Thank you. Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Just one question. Is your financing all in place? Is self-financed or?
We are not self-financed. We have various funds that we use for equity as well as our internal capital. And we have very strong relationships with 3 banks up here in Chicago.
Okay.
I don't suspect it will be an issue.
Is there any of that financing coming from any governmental body?
Not at all. It's all privately financed.
Good. Thank you.
Trustee Lang?
I like how you worked with the synagogue to incorporate that property as well, because otherwise it would just kind of sit there and be hard to develop. Overall, the design of the building, the initial design looks great, and really wow us with details on that building, as well as Trustee Brady was saying. And also the landscaping too. Don't neglect that corner by the creek and the building in between that area on Dundee. Right now it's I don't know what kind of trees are in there, but it could be cleaned out, and there could be something worth saving in there as well.
By the bridge.
And we've offered to do some type of a gateway with staff, because, that we would like to participate with the village. If you have a monument of some sort, something you want to do there, we would work with you to.
It's a lot of space. It's just unusable.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And your parking's all around back by design because of the floodway back there, but that's nice too. It's not all up front, and so overall, it's a concept I'd like to see go next step.
Really appreciate your comments this evening.
Thanks. Well, Matt, you and I have talked, and I tell you, I like this because it's alternative senior housing that I think this community is in dire need to, other than skilled nursing all the time. But just for the record here, I'm going to ask for a consensus to move forward to the Plan Commission. Trustee Brady, you got one more comment?
One more question, and I'd have to start out with Mr. Janik. We're still waiting for the state to grace us with their presence one of these days about widening Dundee Road. And I know we talked about getting the possibility of designated pieces of property to come in that would in their design, allow us to purchase or whatever we'd have to do more easement if, in fact, the state does come in. Now, we did some widening there with the new bridge. Is this piece of property on the list that would have to be, again, widened with the, if the state ever comes through?
Trustee Brady, I don't know of any plans that IDOT has to widen Dundee Road at this time. This plan would have to be approved to some extent by IDOT because of the curb cuts that they're going to be requesting. IDOT at that time will let them know how much right-of-way that they are expecting to be provided, if any. But I don't know of any plans that IDOT has to further widen Dundee Road. I know they've contacted us about intersection improvements along Dundee. Currently, there's 2 that they're doing design work on. That's at McHenry and also at Elmhurst. But I don't know of any widening.
We were told, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, that the state is considering taking, and I don't know what more they can do other than widen the lanes, obviously, and widen the center and the parkways. And that would take a piece of property from either side. And I just don't want it to end up like the fiasco we had to go through on Milwaukee Avenue when we did that, cutting off fronts of buildings and buying, property, and it just was a mess. It took forever and a lot of money. And I'd like to see if there is that possibility, and I know who you can contact to find out what the idea is if they do come in here and tell us it's time to do Dundee Road. So we have, if there's something that they can do with their parking, push it back 5 feet and make all the difference in the world, now's the time to do it.
We can look into that. We've been assembling easements as well, so we'll look into, we may already have that. We'll look into it and make sure that we're covered.
Okay.
And we should, because we've been acquiring the easements right across the
Right.
street here.
Well,
We should continue.
We will know. I mean, when IDOT provides them permits for their, reviews their plans for access, they will tell them if there's any inclination on IDOT's part for additional right-of-way.
And Dot's going to tell you what they told us 10, 12 years ago when we did the traffic study here. When you guys acquire your easements, call us, and then we'll talk about expanding or doing what we have to do on Dundee Road. Until then, don't bother us. I remember going to Schaumburg and listening to the engineer tell us that. So let's get on it, fellas. Anyway, let's do a consensus. Start with Trustee Brady.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger.
Yes.
Trustee Hare.
Yes.
Trustee Hein.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
And myself. Good luck with the Plan Commission, and hopefully we'll see you 6 to 9 months from now.
Thank
Thanks.
you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay. 13F.
Do you want me to read them all?
I want you to read them all, please.
Okay, thank you. 4 ordinance and 1 resolution relating to high-tech paintless dent removal, a proposed auto repair and auto body facility to be located at 1030 South Milwaukee Avenue and 309 East Industrial Lane. F1 is an ordinance granting a rezoning from B3 General Commercial and Office District to I3 General Industrial District for a portion of 1030 South Milwaukee Avenue, docket number 2014-2A. Item F2, ordinance granting variations from Title 19, zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code for existing and proposed buildings, 1030 South Milwaukee Avenue and 309 East Industrial Lane, address to be assigned, docket number 2014-2B. Ordinance F3, granting a special use and associated site plan and appearance approval to construct and operate an auto repair and auto body facility at 309 East Industrial Lane, address to be assigned, docket number 2014-2C. Item F4, ordinance granting a special use and associated site plan and appearance approval to operate an auto repair facility at 1030 South Milwaukee Avenue, docket number 2014-2D. Item F5, resolution approving the final plat of DeCircus re-subdivision, 1030 South Milwaukee Avenue and 309 East Industrial Lane, address to be assigned, docket number PC 14-2.
Thank you. Entertain a motion for 13F1.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Hein.
Second.
Second by Trustee Hare. Roll call.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13F2, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Lang, second by Trustee Brady. Roll call.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13F3, before I entertain a motion, there are conditions for the record, Mr. Majanik.
Yes. Number 1, the hours of operation will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. on Saturday. Number 2, that the construction of the subject site will be subject to the village standards as described in Title 17, Title 19, and Title 22, and in accordance with the consent order related to the development of the subject property. And number 3, the final updated engineering shall be submitted for review and approval by the village staff or by village staff prior to issuance of any building permits.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
So moved with the conditions.
Motion by Trustee Hare,
Second.
second by Trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. 13F4, before I entertain a motion, any other conditions you want to add to that?
The very same conditions are applicable to F4 as they were at F3.
Thank you. Entertain a motion? So move. Motion by trustee Hein.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. 13F5, there are conditions for that one, the resolution?
Yes, number one, that prior to execution and recording, the plat shall be resubmitted as a two-sheet document with the required signature blocks on a separate sheet. And number two, that final updated engineering to support the plat re-subdivision be submitted for review and approval by village staff prior to recording.
That's it? Thank you.
Yes.
Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Vogel with the two conditions, second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. Good luck, gentlemen. 13G.
Ordinance amending Chapter 4.32 of the Village of Williams Municipal Code, alcoholic liquor dealers, specifically Sections 4.32.010, 4.32.070, 4.32080, 4.32.085, and 4.32.200, and Chapter 4.08 of the Village of Wheeling Municipal Code, licenses and permits, specifically Section 4.08.140, to create liquor licenses for establishments with video gaming.
Any more fours? Just teasing you.
Attorney Ferrillo.
Thank you, President Juris. The board discussed this proposed amended ordinance a couple of weeks ago. In summary, what this ordinance does is create liquor licenses with video gaming and liquor licenses without video gaming. We have created separate categories of licenses that allow for video gaming within the A class of license, the B class of license, the C, the E, and we created a new N class, which relates to cafes, smaller restaurants than the B class. We've made changes as requested by the board. I would like to identify a couple of changes that I'd ask for in any motion to approve. The N class, which relates to the cafe, currently states that it would only allow for a maximum of 25 people. I'd ask that N class maximum be increased to 30 with an amendment. So it goes all the way up to the B class, which has a minimum of 30. And if you recall, the Stella's was approved with seating for 30.
That's correct.
The other change that I'd ask, I'm looking for direction on this more than anything else. We talked about fees for the V types of licenses. And we talked about an initial fee, which is currently contained within this proposed ordinance. The initial fee matches the initial fee for the original license, but adds to it $500 per proposed gaming terminal. The question that I have for the board is, who do we want to pay that initial fee? We've got 6 establishments with video gaming in town currently. I imagine you don't want them to pay that 5 to pay that initial fee. There's one establishment that has applied and we've learned has been approved, and there are 5 others? 4 others that are in the process of applying. So the question is, who pays that initial fee? Do you want to exclude from that initial fee all establishments that currently have video gaming and who have currently applied, and make it only applicable to establishments that apply in the future?
New applications.
New
I
applications.
think it's only fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Is that the consensus?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So if that's the consensus, I'd ask that 2 conditions be added to the motion to approve, that the Class N license allow for a maximum of 30 people, and that language be added that states that the initial video gaming fee apply only to license holders that do not either have gaming licenses currently or who have not applied for gaming licenses as of 3/3/14.
Right. And the maximum is 3 on the cafe gaming.
That's right. The
The only
NV
licenses we have is 3.
is maxed out at 3. That's
Right.
the NV category.
Right.
If I may, President Argyris, can I read just so that the board knows who has applied? The 5 who are already operating with gaming terminals are the Dam Inn, Post 66 Amvets, PS Pub, Jeffrey Lanes, and Kilcoins. Additionally, the Illinois Gaming Board has an application from Market Square on file but has not yet approved them. Further, the village has received applications from Twin Peaks, D'Agostino's, Stella's Place at Lynn Plaza, and Stella's Place at Fresh Farms. So according to this direction, those would be the only businesses that would not have to pay the initial fee. So that's a good point. It's not on my list, but they have applied.
Yeah.
DECA.
The new place to get.
Okay.
Headquarters. But from now on, starting from today, it applies.
We are revising the application, and Martin and the staff will be putting together a letter to all of the establishments explaining the changes and requiring that with the renewal, those that have video gaming obtain the applicable V license.
Thank you. Trustee Lang.
Thank you. You know, when we first approved these video gaming a few years ago, and it finally came to be, you never could predict how popular and widespread these establishments would be. And all of a sudden, it seemed like it was getting out of hand. But Jim, I have to say, you guys really jumped on this quickly to rein it all in. And I think we have something really good here for the future that which will most likely be a model for other suburbs that have video gaming as well.
So. The timing's right, too, because the renewals are coming up.
And I'd like to see some royalty on some of those, from those other villages who are using our model, because...
Yeah, Jim.
It's royalties.
Royalties.
Anybody who counts these are...
That's not going to happen.
But thank you.
Trustee Vogel?
And nothing else. Thank
Trustee
you.
Hein, anything? Nothing. Anybody down there? Trustee Brady? Nope. Here?
We're way down
Entertain a motion
So moved.
with the two,
With the 2 conditions.
motion by Trustee Lang,
Second?
second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, good job, guys.
Thank you. Mallory worked pretty hard on it, too, so thank you,
Of course
Mallory.
you did. Thanks, Mallory. I'll start with Trustee Brady. Any comments, official communication?
Just one, and in light of the little bit of confusion we had with the planning commission, and seeing the fact that we have some new members since probably our last workshop together, I think it's time we maybe scheduled another combined workshop to sit down and chat, and if they have any questions or we get something straightened out, it'd be a good time to do it.
The village president and I have discussed it, and it's on our list for the spring. So it's an excellent idea, and we're already on it.
Spring going to get here?
Well, that's a technicality I was hoping you would overlook, but
One day, huh?
we'll see.
Anything else, Ken?
That's it.
Trustee Kruger?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Trustee Hare?
Nothing, thanks.
Trustee Hein?
Nothing tonight.
Trustee Vogel?
No, thank you.
Trustee Lang?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Simpson?
First, a reminder to everybody that the primary is Tuesday, March 12th, and remember to go out and vote. It's important. And the Rotary Club is having a spring fling to benefit the Wheeling Food Pantry. It's featuring a steak dinner and live orchestra. It'll be at the St. Joseph Worker Banquet Hall, Saturday, April 5th, 6:30 cocktails, and it's a cash bar, and 7:30 is a dinner. Join us on Saturday, April 5th from 6:30 to 10 for the Wheeling Food Pantry Spring Fling. Spring Fling proceeds are used to purchase food as supplies diminish. Wheeling Food Pantry is part of the Rotary Club of Wheeling Grant Fund, which is a 501c3 organization. We are an agency for the Greater Chicago Food Depository. Our mission is to help those in need with financial, physical, or other emotional difficulties so that they may lead self-sufficient, independent lives. And for more information, please call 847-821-0008. And it's $50 per person for the dinner. And then there's table reservations that run different, or table sponsorship if you want to, or if you just want to make a donation.
Thank you. Manager Spondilos?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, just a couple short things. Congratulations to the Wheeling High School Jazz Band that earned Grand Champion honors this past week. Also, the boys' swim team made it to state this weekend. And I understand there's an individual wrestler, one of the boys over there, that also qualified for state. So again, Wheeling High School is doing some good things in representing their school and this community downstate. So congratulations to all of them.
Wait 1 second,
Sure.
please. Happy birthday.
Thanks.
President Argyris' birthday is Thursday.
Yeah, thank you. Double nickels, thanks.
45.
Anyway. Approval of the bills for February 13, 2013 through February 26, 2014.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang,
Second?
second by trustee Hein. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. We do have executive session this evening for the review of approval of minutes of executive session lawfully closed under the Open Meetings Act, pending probable and/or imminent litigation, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee or employees of the Village of Wheeling. Entertain a motion to recess into executive session.
So move.
Motion by
Second.
trustee Hare, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes, thank you. We'll reconvene into executive session at 7:45.
Let's see,